69:9, for the zeal of your house consumes me. God, I just pray that right now, that zeal would consume us for you, for your heart, God, that we would press into your presence this morning, that all distractions would be laid aside, Father God, so we can just come before you and worship. So God, we thank you. We give you glory in this place. We just come to praise you, Lord.
Good to see you this morning. I want you to know, as I drove in this morning, it was about 5:30, and as I came in, I noticed that there was a lot of snow on the ground. I'm not very observant. And as I drove in here, I'm thinking, this stinks. Here we are, the week after Easter. It was 70 degrees earlier this week, and here we come in, and now it's snowing, and I'm coming into church, and all this snow is happening. But I had a God moment as I'm coming down 20. As I came down 20, the fog was kind of over the road, and it was kind of, the trees were all snow covered, and it was a beautiful sight, church. It was absolutely beautiful. I know it stinks. It's April, April, what are we, 28th? And it should not be snow on the ground. But you know what? Even with the snow on the ground, it is so beautiful. And as we look at it, we got to understand that God is beautiful. God is doing a work. God is doing great things. And maybe it might look like it stinks, but God is still working. It is still beautiful. So what we want to do this morning, I want to pray for us as we get started this morning, because God is beautiful. He's doing a work. You might be looking at things going, man, it is just nasty in my life, like it was nasty outside yesterday. But I want you to know God's doing something beautiful. All right? Let's pray. God, we are so thankful for how good you are to us. And God, we're not real big fans of the snow, but we know that you are doing something beautiful. We thank you for that. God, we ask you to continue to move in this place. Do a work in this place like we've never seen before. Let us be aware of how good you are. Let's have zeal for you as we just sang in the last song. God, bless us and let us enjoy this time as we worship you. Protect our campus. Protect your people and all that's going on in their lives around them. We pray for your goodness and your joy to be in this place. God, we thank you for what you're going to do, and we give you praise in Jesus' name. And all God's people said, amen. Give God a happy hand clap for how good he is.
Psalm 63 church says, "O God, you are my God. Earnestly I will seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My body longs for you in a dry and weary land where there is no water. I have seen you in the sanctuary, beheld your power and your glory, because your love is better than life. My lips will glorify you." Verse 4, "I will praise you as long as I live. In your name I will lift my hands. With singing lips, my mouth will praise you." Let's praise you in this place, God, for the greater things that you have for each of us. My life is built on your faithfulness. My hope is held in your promises. I take each step with your confidence, 'cause I am yours. I am yours. You never fail. You never will. I'll trust your name for greater things. You will come through. You always do. I'll trust your name for greater things. Trust in you, Jesus. You cleared a way in the wilderness. You brought me back from the brokenness. You took my shame and you buried it. What you've done, I won't forget. You never fail. You never will. I'll trust your name for greater things. You will come through. You always do. I'll trust your name for greater things. circumstances look so impossible, Lord, but with you, all things are possible. Alone in my sorrow and dead in my sin, lost without hope and no place to begin. Your love made a way to let mercy come in. When death was arrested and my life began, ash was redeemed, only beauty remains. My orphan heart was given a name. My morning grew quiet, my feet rose to dance. When death was arrested and my life began. Thank you, Lord. Oh, your grace, so free, washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. Released from my chains, I'm a prisoner no more. My shame was a ransom he faithfully bore. He canceled my debt and he called me his friend. When death was arrested and my life began. Oh, your grace, so free, washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. Our Savior displayed on a criminal's cross. Darkness rejoiced as though heaven had lost. But then Jesus arose with our freedom in hand. That's when death was arrested and my life began. Oh, your grace, so free, washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. Oh, we're free, free, forever we're free. Come join the soul with all the redeemed. Yes, we're free, free, forever, amen. When death was arrested and my life began. Oh, we're free, free, forever we're free. Come join the soul of all the redeemed. Yes, we're free, free, forever, amen. When death was arrested and my life began. When death was arrested and my life began. When death was arrested and my life began. Oh, Jesus, I just thank you so much for the sacrifice of the cross. And I just think, Lord God, and I can just see right now your endless love just pouring over each and every one of us. And that death was arrested that day at the cross. And when the stone was rolled away, and God, that you went to the cross for all. It says in John 3:16, for God so loved all of the world, not some of the world, but you loved all of the world, that you gave your only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have an everlasting and eternal life. So God, I thank you for that sacrifice. And I pray that if there's someone in here today that feels that they've done so wrong, or God doesn't know your love, I pray, Father God, they would just feel your love right now and know the truth of the cross and know that you took that cross for them and for each and every one of us, Lord, and that you conquered the pits of hell and that you redeemed all of us. And we just thank you for that, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Sing with me, My Chains Are Gone, church. My chains are gone. I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, his mercy reigns. Unending love, amazing grace. strip down walls right now. Any walls, God, that we have thrown up when we've come into this place, Lord. Let us be wide open to whatever you have for us, Lord. God, I pray an amazing grace not only over this church, but over our homes and our marriages and our relationships, over our families. God, over our communities, may they know the truth. That truth is you. I just thank you for your grace. We stand here this morning totally and completely in awe of you. We give you all the glory of our hearts in the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen, church. You may be seated in his presence. He's so good, church.
Good morning, New Life. We're so glad you guys are here to celebrate the birth of our Savior. It's Christmas 2019. Not really. So last week was Easter, and it feels like it's Christmas today with the snow outside. But we're so glad you guys are here to celebrate. Last week we celebrated the birth or the resurrection of our Savior. This week we celebrate the resurrection of our Savior. Tomorrow we're going to celebrate the resurrection of our Savior. The next day we're going to celebrate the resurrection of our Savior as well. And that's just something that, as a people, as the Church of God, that we want to celebrate that resurrection, that power every single day of our lives. And just realize that, and just not a day goes by where we don't think about what Jesus did for you guys. So we're continuing a time of worship. If the gatekeepers want to come forward. Excuse me. And while the gatekeepers come forward, check your bulletins. There's a lot of good stuff in there. There's something for everybody. So if you're sitting there thinking, what is there something for me to get involved with? I guarantee you there's something for you to get involved with. If you're the youngest one in here to the oldest one in here, there's something for you guys to get involved with. So check it out. And just if you have any questions, go find someone who looks like they know what they're doing, and they'll point you in the right direction. But we're gonna continue times of worship with our tithes and offerings. You want to pray with me? God, we just thank you for your goodness. We thank you that you're here with us, God. That we get to come together as the body of Christ and just worship you and praise you for how good you are to us, God. We celebrate that Jesus rose from the dead and that he conquered death and that he's just is so good to us. God, we pray that you just be here with us, be here through your word. Let us receive something from you, God. Just let us know what you want for us today. We thank you for this time where we're able to give back just a little bit of what you've given us. God, we pray that it does get used to expand your kingdom and that more people will come to know you because of what's happening in this place right here, God. We just love you so much. We thank you for your goodness and your grace. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
And ooh, there's something about the way your sun shines on my face. It's a love so true, I can never get enough of you.
Heavenly Father, we come to you here and ask you to please watch over our homes and our family. Amen. My name is Sister.
punch there, the punch line, I should say. I was going to open up by looking at the camera and say, welcome to New Life Bible Church, and all of you viewing at home because of the blizzard. But we are here, and it is good. And I'm excited that we're here to finish up our Easter series. Most churches in the area have finished up their Easter series last week. We're going to finish up today. So we're going to finish up today. And also something we want to finish up today is this. You see those over there? We want those out of here today. So no stampeding and anything, and be nice and share because we're good people. But if you'd like an Easter lily, please take one home and enjoy the beauty of it, okay? Does that sound good? All right, no fighting. If there's fighting, we'll have to separate you. And we'll put you in different seats next week. So that's what they do in school. Anyways, we are finishing up our series called Why. And we've talked a lot about the question why over the past 3 or 4 weeks. And we are focused on that question. And hopefully at the past few weeks, you've gotten a little broader understanding on the question why. Now, the first week we started out, we talked about the disciples questioning why Jesus was talking about all this stuff, about how he had to suffer and die and be betrayed and all these different things, and that he would be brought back to life. They were questioning those things over and over again and trying to figure out why he was saying those things. And then we came back into the next sermon. We talked about the triumphal entry and why on Palm Sunday the triumphal entry was so important, and it's why it's so important to this day. Last Sunday we talked about, on Easter Sunday, about the ladies going to the tomb to see Jesus, and when they got there, the angel said to them, "Why are you looking for the living among the dead?" And today we are going to continue, and we're going to discuss the question, why are we still talking about this? Why are we still talking about this? Here we are in 2019, and we're still talking about the importance of Jesus' death, his burial, and his resurrection. And we're going to talk about the most important sequences of event in history and continue to talk about it. Many people in our world around us today ask the question, why do we always talk about Jesus? And why do Christians insist on making their Christian faith so important to them? And why do they talk about Jesus? And today we are going to answer that question of why we're still talking about this. And maybe you've asked yourself that question sometimes. Maybe you've questioned your faith a little bit. Maybe you've had some doubt. Maybe you've struggled through some different times in life. And you said, why am I still doing this? Why am I still thinking and talking about Jesus? It happened so long ago. And why do we still talk about that? Today, hopefully, we answer that question for you. And you walk out of here with a new understanding of how important it is to be part of the body of Christ and what our job is. So today, as we continue, I want you to take your paper Bibles, if you have them, or your electronic devices, whatever you have, maybe your phone app, and open up to Matthew 28. We're going to look at Matthew 28, 16 through 20. Matthew 28, 16 through 20. And it's also going to be up here over my head, so don't get too excited if you get lost. You'll always have a reference to go to. So Matthew 28, 16 through 20. If you got it, say got it, PT. All right, so we're good to go. It says this. It says, then the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshiped him, but some doubted. So we'll stop there for just a second. This is just a freebie. This isn't part of the sermon. But when we come into this scripture, this is one of those scriptures that dumbfound me. When it says, when they saw him, they worshiped him, but some doubted. In this situation, you're talking about the 11 closest people to our Savior Jesus. The 11 who knew him the most. The 11 who have been around him and seen him do miracle after miracle. They've seen him raise people from the dead. They've seen all kinds of situations that are important in knowing who Jesus is. They heard of his teaching. They heard of all the different things. And now they get to the point where Jesus did exactly what he told them he was going to do. That he would be betrayed, that he would be beaten, that he would be killed, and that he'd be put in a grave, and on the third day he's resurrected. All these things have come to fruition. All these things have happened. And now all of a sudden it says this. It says, they saw him, they worshiped him, but some doubted. There was doubt. So if you're here and you've ever had doubt in your mind, understand that that's probably normal. But we must be a people that realize the importance of how good Jesus is to us. Because those 11, some of them doubted. It goes on and says in verse 18, it says, then Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. Here we see this. Jesus is with his disciples. He's with his closest friends after all that he'd been through, after all they have seen. And he was giving his final instructions to them. He was giving them, do you know what, how many of you, if you have kids, raise your hand. You ever had kids? Last night was prom for Winnebago, and Justin, Jared and Avery went to prom, and we sent them off, and there's always final instructions, especially when it's snowing out in April going to prom. It's snowing out. The roads are going to be slushy. You have mom's car, not yours, so don't crash mom's car, because we like mom's car. It's going to be slushy, and you get the answer back from a typical answer from a 17-year-old kid that says, Dad, I've driven a lot worse. I know, but listen to me. You give final instructions. So we all understand that Jesus is now giving final instructions to his disciples. They came together and they worshiped, and like I said, some doubted earlier. Some were uncertain of what they had seen. Some were trying to figure out what was going on. But Jesus gave them the answer to the why are we still talking about this in 2019. He gave them the answer to the question. And he says this. He said, then Jesus came to them. This is from our scripture. He says, then Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I'm with you always to the very end of the age. Here, Jesus is giving the final explanation. He's giving the final encouragement. He's laying everything out. He was laying out that there was now a new way of doing things. There was a new way of understanding. God's plan was in full action of what he had talked about in the past, and now everything was coming to exactly what God said would happen. And he says, I have the authority now, and I'm telling you to do some certain things. He says, go out and to make disciples and make disciples. Go tell them what you have seen. Go tell them what you have heard. Go tell them all that I have taught you, and go out and make a difference in the world around you. Go tell them the good news of the salvation that you get because of my death, burial, and resurrection. Tell them the good news of forgiveness of sin and the absence of shame and guilt in their lives. And to make all nations sure that they knew about Jesus. And then when you tell them about me, there's another step. Tell them to be baptized. He said, go out and teach them all that I commanded you, and to know that I am with you always to the end of the age. The disciples were encouraged here to keep passing on the good news to all. They were encouraged to go out and to share all that they had seen, all that they heard about Jesus taught. He was telling them to go out and to tell and to make sure everybody knew the good news, and to keep making a difference for Jesus in the world around them. They were to keep talking about Jesus. And as we look at this and we understand this, and what does that have to do with today in 2019 and why we're still talking about it? Because the same thing that he told them then is the same thing that we're supposed to be doing today. Our job is the same job that they had, is to go out and to make a difference in the world for Jesus. The simple answer to why are we still talking about this is this. Jesus commanded us to continue to talk about this. Jesus commanded us to make a difference. In our world today, so much is going on. In everything and every day when you wake up, there's something new in the news that gets our attention. Every single day, there's something new in the news. That's why they call it the news, right? Some of you are going, bing, yeah. That makes sense. Why did I say some of you are getting it? Because I just got it not too long ago. Anyways. But there's something new going on every single day. There's something that pops up that's the big story that everybody jumps on, that everybody's talking about at work, that everybody's talking about on the news, that everybody's talking about on Twitter or Facebook. It's that one thing, and it's a new thing, and everybody focuses their attention on that. But what happens the next day? The next day, guess what happens? There's another big news story that overshadows yesterday's big story. And yesterday's story becomes what? Old news. It becomes old news. And I want you to understand, as we understand the way life goes, there's always something new, something bigger, better, better the next day that's in our news. And what's bigger, better, better today is old news tomorrow. We got to understand something, and I want you to understand this very clearly, that with Jesus, he is never old news. He is always good news. He is always new. He makes things new. We are called to keep talking about him and acting upon the importance of him every day so that he is kept in the forefront, that he is never overshadowed by other stuff or other things or other gods or other things that are trying to replace the true Jesus and Savior of the world. He is never old news. He makes us, now think about this. If Jesus is never old news, guess what? He makes us new every day. Every day when you wake up, you may go, I don't feel new every day. I still got the same pain in my elbow that I had yesterday. So I don't feel new. But Jesus has made you new every day. Every day when you wake up. Every day when you wake up, Jesus makes you new. He gives you a new day, a new way of looking at things in his goodness. Every day when you wake up, he gives you new life. That's a great name for a church, right? He gives you new life. He brings us a new perspective every day. His perspective. And we are reminded, and we're to remind those around us about the new life he has given us. That's why we still talk about him today. That's why we place the importance on sharing the good news of Jesus. Because he is never old news. He makes things new every day. It doesn't matter if you're the youngest one or the oldest one here. He makes your life new every day. And Jesus was telling them that they needed to go out and to make sure that the people knew about the new life. That the old was gone and the new has come. And the new was Jesus. Jesus was telling his disciples to not be quiet. If you read through Scripture, and when Jesus was starting out in his ministry, he would do something and he'd go, shh. He would tell them to be quiet about it. But in this situation, he's like, do not be quiet about the salvation that you have received. Do not be quiet about the forgiveness you have received. Do not be quiet about the good news of Jesus. He was telling them it was time to go tell the world that Jesus saves. It was their job then, and it is our job now. We're the ones that share the good news. In Romans 10, this is an interesting scripture. In Romans 10 through 15, it says this, for it is with your heart that you believe and are justified, and it is with your mouth that you confess and are saved. As Scripture says, anyone who trusts in him will never be put to shame. For there is no difference between Jew and Gentile. The same Lord is Lord of all and richly blesses all who call on him. For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. Verse 14 goes on and says this, how then can they call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can they preach unless they are sent? And it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. Here in Romans, this is a great scripture, and if you didn't write it down, write it down. Romans 10 through 15. Write it down and look at it over and over again, because what it's going to do, and I'm going to give you, it's going to convict you of what you're to be doing in life. Here in Romans, we're reminded how to be saved. He says, believe in your heart and confess with your mouth. It is that simple. In our world today, in our church universal, the around us, we have made becoming a Christian so stinking complicated to people that they don't even want to do it. Did you know that? There are people who say, to become a Christian, there's so many hoops I got to jump through. And I say, name one. It's believe and confess. Believe and confess. Believe that he is the Son of God and confess with your mouth, and you will be saved. No guilt, no shame. Jesus is calling people and calling us to be saved. Verse 14 is the big one that I was talking about. It says, How then, I want to remind you what it says, is how then can they call on the one they have not believed? How can they believe in the one they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can they preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. So how does this happen? We are sent into the world to tell or to preach to the people. That's what we're to do. We are called to be the ones who share the good news. Everyone here. And you're saying, the problem is, history has said that it's my job and my job only. Did you know that? You're the preacher. You're the one that went to Bible college. You're the one, it doesn't mean anything. It kind of does. It's important. But it makes myself feel better. Anyways, you're the one that stands up there, and you're the pastor, you're the preacher, you're supposed to be the one going, changing the world and telling people about Jesus and them coming to know Jesus. When it comes down to it, that is the lie from the pits of hell, because it's everybody's job in here to preach the good news. It's everybody's job in here to be the ones reaching out to those who are hurting. It's everyone in here's job to be talking to those around you. And when we look at this, we go, wow, that's pretty difficult. But I want you to know it is our job to be sent into the world to make a difference for Jesus. It says, beautiful are the feet who bring good news. Beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. I want you to do something now. It's going to make you a little uncomfortable. Unless you're an introvert, it might be something you're used to. I want you to take this time, and I want everybody to look at their feet. Okay, everybody. There's people, look at me. Don't look at me, look at your feet. Look at your feet. Don't take your shoes off. We don't want to smell up the building. Look at your feet and say, you got to do it. Ready? Say, you are beautiful. You just told your feet they're beautiful. Some of you are here going, feet are gross. But go with me on this. Your feet are beautiful. Do you know why your feet are beautiful? Because you bring the good news of Jesus wherever those feet take you. You were given feet. You were given beautiful, stinky feet to take you to places to tell them about Jesus. Now, does that mean you have to go all over the world to do it? No, take your stinky feet to your house and do it. Take your beautiful feet to your work and do it. In your community. But the problem is this. There are problems. Not everybody wants to have beautiful feet. Not everybody wants to have those beautiful feet. It says in Matthew 9:35 through 38, it says, Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send the workers into the harvest field. I want you to know we have a lot of beautiful feet around us, but a lot of people don't want to have beautiful feet. A lot of people don't want to be the ones that carry the good news to people around them. The harvest is plentiful, church. There are plenty of people in our world that need to hear about Jesus. We look at our communities, and we can look at our communities and we can say Winnebago is about 3,500, Pecatonica is about 30-some hundred or whatever, Westlake and Davis, Dakota, Freeport, Rockford, Byron, Mount Morris, Dixon, Oregon. We can go around our 30-mile perimeter radius around New Life Bible Church right here, and we can look and go, there are hundreds of thousands of people in our churches. Our church is not 100,000 people, church. You know what that means? There's a lot of harvest out there. There's a lot of harvest, but not a lot of workers. And God is calling us to be workers. There's a lot of helpless and harassed people around us looking for answers. Now I want you to take a time out here. Take a time out. Think. How many of you know people in your family, in your circle of friends, and in your workplace, and in just general around you, maybe your neighborhood, who you know go through life feeling helpless and harassed by the world. We all do. There's people looking for answers. There are people looking for their answers to their helplessness. There's people looking for their answers for their feeling harassed in life. There are people looking for answers. And it comes down to it, church, we have the answer. The answer, I'm going to be very blunt, the answer to all of life's problems comes down to one word. And that one word is this, Jesus. And you sit there and go, that's pretty cliche, and that's kind of corny, Pastor Tim. And I can't say it any other way, but if we are more focused on Jesus and the problems, our lives would be much easier. If our communities were more focused on Jesus and the problems, our communities would be a lot stronger. If our nation was more concentrated on Jesus than the issues that we focus on and make news every day, we would be a lot stronger. And the news would be the good news in the news every day. Does that make sense? We have the answer. So why are we still talking about it? Because we have the answer. It'd be like going to take a math test and you have the answer. You're looking at the math test and you're going, what's the answer to 4 plus 4? And you have the answer 9, but you're afraid to put it down. Good for you, Amy Newell. Yeah, Bible college. You have the answer. Let me back up. That was a test. You have the answer, for those of you a little slower. 4 plus 4 is 8. You have the answer, but you refuse to put it down. We have the answer, but there are people who are refusing to put down the right answer. Church, we need to be the ones who are telling people the right answer and helping them cheat on their test. Does that make sense? It's not really cheating. That's the only word I could come up with. But to give them the answer, and the answer is Jesus. That's why we're still talking about it today. But talking to people about faith is tough. Talking to people about faith is tough because there's all kinds of thoughts. There's all kinds of ways people go through their lives, and it's hard to talk about faith sometimes. I agree, it's difficult. But look at what Peter says. In 1 Peter 3, 13 through 15, it says this, who is going to harm you if you are eager to do good? But even if you should suffer for what is right, you are blessed. Do not fear what they fear. Do not be frightened. But in your hearts be set apart Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect. Understand what Peter says here. He says, you will not be harmed for doing good. Be set apart. Be different. Be prepared to talk to people about Jesus and what has changed your life and what's going good in your life and where God has worked. But do it gently and with respect. Do it gently and with respect. A lot of times we think we need to go out and say, you need to be saved. You look like a rough guy. I'm pointing at you, Randy, because you're my rough guy. Randy's the most gentle guy probably in the building right now. But you need to be saved, and we go in your face. We think that's what we need to do because that's what we've been taught, and that's what people have done, and that's what turns people off. But it says here to do it gently and with respect, and to just share what God has done. Share the good news. Don't be afraid or ashamed. Don't be worried, but have an answer and know what the answer is, and the answer is Jesus. Romans 1:16 says, I'm not ashamed of the gospel because it is the power of God for the salvation of everyone who believes, first a Jew and then a Gentile. God has given us great power. It is up to us to use it to glorify Him. And we're called to share it, church. That's why we're still talking about it. Because we have beautiful feet. In close, I'm going to have the worship team come up. In close, Romans 6:23 says this, for the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus our Lord. Church, I want you to understand something. There are many people around you every day who are deserving of death. Did you hear that? There are many people around you every day who are deserving of death. There are people around you that are stuck in sin and do not have Jesus as their Savior. They may be your family members. They may be your friends. They may be your coworkers. They may be your kid's best friend or your kid's friends, parents. It may be people you know in general. There are people around you that are deserving of death. What they need is a relationship with Jesus. What they need is grace that only Jesus can bring. And you have the answer for them. Go tell and make disciples. We have conversations ahead of you this week. Think about this for a second. You have conversations ahead of you this week that could have eternal effects. You could have a conversation this week that could change a person's eternal destination. Be ready. Be ready. But what do I say? You said a lot of words, Pastor Tim. What do I say? What do I say? Well, I wanted to listen to what Peter said in Acts. It says, therefore, let all of Israel be assured of this. God has made this Jesus, whom you crucified, both Lord and Christ. When the people heard this, they were cut to the heart and said to Peter and the other apostles, brothers, what shall we do? And Peter replied this. He said this, listen, repent and be baptized, every one of you, in the name of Jesus Christ for the forgiveness of your sins, and you will receive the gift of the Holy Spirit. The promise is for you and for your children and for all who are far off, for all of whom the Lord our God will call. With many other words, he warned them and he pleaded with them, save yourselves from this corrupt generation. Those who accepted the message were baptized, and about 3,000 were added to their number that day. Church, I want you to understand, we're seeing a lot of corruption and stuff around us every day. Now is the time to make Jesus known. Now is the time to go and to make disciples. Now is the time to get serious and to ask, why are we still talking about this? Because Jesus is important. Because the world needs to know that Jesus saves. As we get ready to close today, I want us to understand that Jesus says in John 16, he says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. You have friends around you that need to know that Jesus has overcome the world. Because people are looking around going, man, things don't look good. Things look pretty rough around us. I just don't know what's going to happen. I don't know when or how everything's going to happen, but what I do know is this. Jesus overcame the world. And he's given us a direct path to salvation and forgiveness. And it's our responsibility to receive that and to share that. That's why we're talking about it today. Would you stand with me and pray with me as we get ready to close? We're going to close, and I'm going to pray, and then the worship team is going to lead us in closing worship. As we get to think about and to ponder what's been said today, maybe you're here and you haven't made a decision for Jesus. You haven't been water baptized, and you're sitting there going, I'm missing something in my life. And if that's something, if I can interject, if you're saying that something is Jesus. Well, I've made Jesus, I've confessed with my mouth. I've confessed with my mouth, and I've repented of my sin. Now what? I still feel like I'm missing something. Have you been water baptized? That's probably next on the list. Well, I've been through all those things, and I'm still missing something. You know what the next thing is? Being filled with the Holy Spirit. Maybe you need to ask God to fill you with His Spirit. And today, as we close in our closing worship, I want you to ponder those questions. As you ponder those questions, figure out how you can talk to people around you about them, and about them being saved and knowing Jesus, and spending eternity with Jesus and with you. Let's pray. God, we are so thankful for how good you are to us. We ask that you would bless us as we continue with worship, that you would draw us near to you, that you would give us wisdom, that you would let us open our mouths in times that you are calling us to speak about your good news of Jesus. We love you. We give you praise, and we ask, God, that you would give us direction in all that we do. We give you praise, and we thank you. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
You make it easy to love you. You You have never left my side. You've been faithful every time. All I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. You are the refuge I run to. You are the fire that leads me through the night. I'll follow you anywhere. There's a million reasons to trust you. Nothing to fear, for you are by my side. I'll follow you anywhere. Oh, Jesus, you came to my rescue. You took my place upon that cross. You redeemed what I had lost. Now my whole world's revolving around you. You're the center of my life. You're the treasure. You're the prize. Oh, and is you. You are the refuge I run to. You are the fire that leads me through the night. I'll follow you anywhere. There's a million reasons to trust you. Nothing to fear, for you are by my side. I'll follow you anywhere. Follow you anywhere. Oh, I'll follow you anywhere. Oh, wherever you lead me, whatever it costs me, Lord, all I want is you. Jesus, all I want is you. Wherever you lead me, whatever it costs me, Lord, all I want is you. Jesus, all I want is you. Wherever you lead me, Lord, whatever it costs me, oh, all I want is you. Jesus, all I want is you. You are the refuge I run to. You are the fire that leads me through the night. I'll follow you anywhere. There's a million reasons to trust you. Nothing to fear, for you are by my side. I'll follow you anywhere. Follow you anywhere. Oh, I'll follow you anywhere. Oh, I'll follow you anywhere.
God, we will follow you anywhere. And as we follow you, we will share your good news. And we thank you for Jesus, and we give you praise for him. We thank you for the Easter that we came through. And as we look forward to what you have for us in the rest of this year, God, and leading into next year, God, we are so thankful for how good you are to us. I pray your blessing upon your people as they go their ways. I pray that you would bless them, anoint them, fill them with your spirit. Let them walk out of here with their beautiful feet, making a difference in the world around them. God, we love you, we praise you, and thank you for how good you are to us. Let us enjoy the goodness that you have for us. We give you all praise and glory. It's in Jesus' name we pray, and all of God's people God bless. Have a great week.